On a crisp February morning in Livingston, Texas, the sun rose lazily over the sleepy town. The day began like any other for the Collins family, unremarkable, mundane. Audra Collins, an 11-year-old with a contagious smile and a backpack full of dreams, was supposed to catch the school bus just down the street from her home. But on this particular morning, as sunlight filtered through the trees, she never arrived at her destination. As the minutes ticked by and Audra didn't show up at school, her mother, Emily, felt a growing unease. She called the school, hoping to hear that Audra had simply missed the bus and walked in late. But the school's response was chilling. She's not here. Panic set in like a heavy fog. The news spread quickly through the neighborhood. The Collins family's doorbell rang incessantly as neighbors and friends gathered to offer support and join the search. Sheriff's deputies arrived shortly after, their radios crackling with updates as they combed through nearby fields and woods. In those first hours, hope was palpable. Audra knew the area well. Maybe she'd gotten distracted by something adventurous along her route. But when searchers discovered her backpack near the Lake Livingston Dam, dread supplanted hope. Detective Hannah Turner was called to lead the investigation. A seasoned officer with a knack for piecing together disparate clues, she immediately sensed that something was amiss. The backpack's location, so far from home, hinted at foul play. As dusk fell, casting long shadows over the town, Detective Turner convened with her team at the sheriff's office. They pored over maps and timelines, scrutinized security footage from local businesses, and conducted interviews with anyone who might have seen Audra that morning. A few days later, a shocking development emerged. Don McDougal, a familiar face from the neighborhood who often helped Audra's family with errands, became a person of interest. His vehicle was linked to the scene near where Audra's backpack was found. Yet McDougal seemed to vanish into thin air just as quickly as he'd become a suspect. The investigation grew more complex as details of McDougal's past surfaced, a previous conviction for enticing a child. Despite his criminal history, he lived freely among them because of a legal loophole that allowed him to evade sex offender registry. The case took another turn when McDougal was arrested on an unrelated assault charge. In custody, he maintained his innocence concerning Audra's disappearance, but couldn't provide an alibi for that fateful morning. With McDougal behind bars, yet answers still elusive, Detective Turner faced mounting pressure from Audra's family and the community, demanding justice. As she pieced together witness statements and forensic evidence, a gnawing question plagued her. What really happened that morning? And then came a call that changed everything. A tip-off about potential evidence hidden beneath the murky waters of Trinity River. The chapter closes on this tantalizing lead, the search teams preparing their equipment for what might be their most critical dive yet. The dive team assembled at the edge of the Trinity River, their silhouettes stark against the early morning mist. Detective Hannah Turner stood alongside them, her eyes fixed on the swirling waters below. The tip-off about potential evidence had reignited hope, yet an unsettling undercurrent of dread lingered. As the divers slipped beneath the surface, Hannah replayed the sequence of events that led them here. Audra's backpack, found near Lake Livingston Dam, had been a crucial clue, but the river held its own secrets, a murky repository of truths waiting to be uncovered. Minutes ticked by, each one heavier than the last. The surface remained eerily calm, betraying nothing of the search unfolding beneath. Then a diver's head broke through, signaling to the team on shore. Emerging from the depths, they brought with them a small, waterlogged object, a phone. Detective Turner's heart skipped a beat. Could this be the break they so desperately needed? Back at the station, forensic technicians carefully disassembled the device. It was damaged, but not beyond repair. As they worked their magic, Turner reviewed surveillance footage once more. That's when she noticed something previously overlooked, a shadowy figure lingering near Audra's bus stop on that fateful morning. The grainy footage didn't reveal much, a hooded jacket, an indistinct face, but it was enough to confirm her growing suspicions. Don McDougal wasn't acting alone. Hours later, the phone yielded its secrets, Among innocuous messages and photos was a series of texts between McDougal and an unknown contact saved only as D. Cryptic exchanges referenced meeting places and times, one matching precisely when Audra disappeared. Who is this D? Detective Turner wondered aloud, frustration bubbling beneath her calm exterior. The pieces were coming together, but a critical link remained elusive. As she pondered this new development, another officer rushed in with urgent news. A witness had come forward. An elderly man from a nearby town claimed he'd seen a van matching McDougal's description parked along a secluded dirt road by the river on February 15th. The timing was too coincidental to ignore. Turner knew she had to act swiftly. This could be their chance to uncover who D really was and what role they played in Audra's disappearance. With renewed determination, she gathered her team for an immediate search of the area described by the witness. The sun began its descent as they arrived at the lonely stretch of road bordered by dense thickets, an ideal spot for clandestine meetings or worse. Then came an unexpected discovery. A small clearing revealed fresh tire tracks leading deeper into the woods. They followed them cautiously until they stumbled upon something chilling. A makeshift campfire site littered with remnants of burnt clothing and charred pages from what appeared to be a journal. Each page was fragile underfoot, but enough remained legible to hint at plans involving Audra and others unknown. As darkness enveloped them, Detective Turner realized this was only the beginning of unraveling a far deeper conspiracy than anyone had anticipated. "We've stumbled onto something much bigger," she whispered to herself, aware that their pursuit of justice for Audra now held broader implications. As Chapter 2 closed on this unsettling note, questions loomed larger than ever. Who was orchestrating these events? And how many more lives hung in balance? The night hung heavy as Detective Hannah Turner stood in the chilling silence of the clearing, her mind racing with the revelations from Chapter 2. The remnants of burnt clothing and charred journal pages hinted at a conspiracy far more sinister than a lone abduction. The discovery of these enigmatic clues left the team on edge, their breath visible in the cold air as they pondered what lay ahead. Returning to the station, Turner spread out the salvaged journal pages across her desk. They were cryptic and fragmented, a puzzle speaking of plans and coded directives, each line hinting at a network operating in shadows. The mention of Audra's name among the scrawlings suggested she was not an isolated target, but part of something larger. The phone messages between McDougal and the mysterious D were now tinged with a new urgency. Turner could feel it in the pit of her stomach. This was no random act. D was orchestrating events with precision, pulling strings beyond McDougal's immediate reach. As dawn broke, casting soft light through the blinds, a breakthrough arrived. Forensic analysis had finally linked the tire tracks from the campsite to a van registered under a false name, but traced back to known aliases used by a local gang involved in human trafficking. It was a chilling connection suggesting that Audra's abduction might have been part of a broader, systematic operation targeting vulnerable children. Turner organized an immediate briefing with her team. "We're dealing with something bigger than just McDougal," she began, her voice steady but grave. "Our priority now is identifying D and understanding their role in this network." Maps were unfurled on the table, dotted with potential locations tied to sightings and known gang activities. The pressure mounted as they raced against time. Every lead felt like it slipped through their fingers faster than they could grasp it. Yet, hope flickered when another breakthrough emerged. A security camera near one of their identified locations captured footage of a figure resembling D. The grainy image showed them meeting with an unidentified accomplice. A plan took shape. Stake out this location and surveil any activity that might lead them closer to D. As evening fell, Turner felt a mix of anticipation and dread. The shadows deepened as they watched from their hidden vantage points. Hours passed in tense silence until movement stirred near the building. Two figures emerged, one fitting D's description, with hurried movements suggesting something significant was underway. Turner's heartbeat quickened. They might finally be closing in. Before they could act, a sudden twist sent shockwaves through the team. Another text message surfaced from McDougal's recovered phone sent just before his arrest. It instructed Dee to secure the package, a chilling euphemism that could only mean one thing: Audra wasn't meant to be found alive. With this revelation, Chapter 3 concludes on a knife-edge cliffhanger, setting up the stakes for what comes next, as Detective Turner realizes they're not just racing against time, they're racing against an operation orchestrated from within their own community. Detective Hannah Turner's pulse quickened as she digested the implications of the latest discovery, McDougal's ominous message about securing the package. The realization that Audra was never meant to survive sent shivers down her spine and lent a new urgency to their pursuit. The team was positioned for the stakeout near the location where Dee was last seen, their vehicles concealed under the cover of darkness. Turner, sitting in the surveillance van, kept her eyes glued to the screens relaying grainy footage from strategically placed cameras. The minutes dragged on, punctuated only by the occasional chirp of radio chatter. Then, movement. A figure matching Dee's description appeared, accompanied by an associate. They moved with purpose, exchanging furtive glances as if aware of unseen eyes monitoring them. Turner leaned forward, her instincts honed by years of experience, telling her that something critical was about to unfold. The figures entered a nearby building, prompting Turner and her team to quietly exit their vehicles and approach on foot. Every step felt laden with significance as they edged closer to uncovering the truth behind Audra's abduction and potential trafficking ring. Inside, the flickering fluorescent lights revealed a makeshift meeting area cluttered with maps and documents. Turner signaled her team to fan out and search for anything that could link back to Audra or provide insight into Dee's operations. The air was tense with anticipation. Just as they began their search, a loud creak echoed through the space. A hidden door at the back of the room swung open, revealing a dimly lit passageway. Without hesitation, Turner led her team down the narrow corridor. Their footsteps echoed ominously in the confined space. Emerging into an expansive underground room, they found evidence that chilled them. A wall covered in photographs of children, including Audra. Each image was marked with dates and locations, hinting at a well-organized trafficking network operating right under their noses. Turner's heart clenched at the sight. This was no longer just about justice for Audra, but stopping a cycle of exploitation affecting countless innocents. As she absorbed this grim reality, a sudden noise drew their attention, a door slamming shut at the far end of the room. Rushing toward it, they found themselves in a loading area where Dee and his accomplice were attempting to flee. Turner shouted commands to halt, but adrenaline-fueled desperation propelled them onward. In a tense standoff illuminated by harsh industrial lighting, Turner confronted Dee, demanding answers. His gaze skittered across hers defiantly until finally cracking under pressure. He revealed that Audra's kidnapping was intended as leverage against her family, part of a broader scheme targeting influential locals. Chapter 4 closes with Dee in custody, and Turner grappling with mixed emotions. Relief at capturing one culprit, but dread over how many more might still be out there. She knows this is only part of a larger puzzle, yet unsolved. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly as Detective Hannah Turner processed the scene before her. The underground room, with its haunting wall of photographs, was a testament to the systematic horror they were beginning to unveil. Each child's face, including Audra's, told a silent story of innocence caught in the web of a monstrous operation. With Dee now in custody, Turner faced him across the interrogation table. His earlier defiance had melted away, replaced by a sullen resignation. "Who else is involved?" Turner pressed, her voice steady but insistent. Dee hesitated, glancing at the mirrored wall behind her as if expecting an escape from his predicament. "It's bigger than you think," he finally muttered. "We've been operating for years, under your noses. Audra was just unfortunate." The admission sent a wave of cold anger through Turner. She leaned in closer, determined to extract every piece of information possible. Who orchestrates this? Names, locations? I want it all. As Dee began to unravel the threads of the conspiracy, Turner felt both relief and dread. The network extended far beyond their town, with connections implicating individuals in positions of power and trust, people meant to protect those like Audra. Meanwhile, Audra's family gathered outside the police station, their grief and anger fueling a newfound purpose. Her grandfather, Philip Munch, had already begun organizing efforts for Audra's law, aiming to close the legal loopholes that allowed predators like McDougal to evade detection. Inside the interrogation room, Dee continued to divulge details, a sprawling web of deceit and exploitation that stretched across county lines. Turner knew this was just the beginning of dismantling an operation that preyed on vulnerability and trust. Back at home base, Turner coordinated with state and federal agencies to launch simultaneous raids on identified locations tied to the trafficking ring. Her determination was unwavering. She wouldn't let Audra's death be in vain. As dawn broke over Livingston, news of arrests spread through the community. The collective sigh of relief was palpable, yet tempered by the grim reality that such darkness had thrived among them for so long. At a press conference later that day, Turner stood beside Philip Munch as he addressed reporters. His voice was strong despite the tremor of loss. "We will not stop until Audra's law is passed, until every child is safe from monsters hidden in plain sight." The crowd murmured in agreement, their resolve echoing his own. With Dee's cooperation and ongoing investigations promising more breakthroughs, Chapter 5 closes on a hopeful yet cautious note. The immediate threat was quelled, but the fight for systemic change had just begun. Detective Turner watched as Audra's family embraced amid cheers of support from neighbors and strangers alike. For them, and for all those whose voices had been silenced, it marked the start of healing and a renewed commitment to justice.